Hello! It's time to learn how to draw the male torso. I'm going to start off by showing you some simplified versions, then I'm going to take those and I'm going to make them have shredded anatomy. I want you to follow along as well because it's mostly just a bunch of examples, and comment what video you want next. Let's get into it. We're going to start with the head, and instead of using a normal Loomis, I'm going to use a more boxy shape for a more masculine figure. And now I'm adding the traps. The traps are like a triangle, and I'm making sure to have that point above the chin to show the size of them. If they were small traps, I might have it below. Notice how just there I counted 3 heads. 1, 2, 3. That point that I just found is where the belly button will go. And now I'm adding the edge of the torso, and that's going to be wider at the top and narrower at the bottom for that V taper. If I was drawing a normal rib cage, it would be narrow at the top and it would be wide at the bottom, but since I want to go ahead and pack the muscle on, I'm doing it the other way around. That line there is for the bottom of the chest. I'm just defining that a little bit more. And now there's the midsection. Just a simple cylinder, and same for the top of the pelvis. I make it like this cylinder shape. That line there to show 3D, I'm drawing through. Now I'm adding on the thighs. Now there is the division between the deltoids and the pecs. Now I'm lightening it down just to clean it up. When I clean this up, I like to use a little bit more line weight, and there I'm adding a little bit of definition in the obliques. And I'm showing more of the anatomy, but it's still basically the same concept. There I'm adding the center line for the stomach, still keeping in mind where the belly button is. Now we're going to do another figure, and this time it's from behind. So I'm drawing a tube up there on the back of the cranium, and I'm making the back more curved. And same thing, wider at the top, narrow at the bottom, cylinder for the midsection and top of the pelvis, but this time instead of adding a triangle for the bottom of the pelvis, now it's more like a block because instead of the crotch, it's the butt. Now I'm adding on the deltoid muscles. I think they're a bit small, so you'll see me make them a little bit bigger later. Now I'm lightening it down, cleaning things up again, adding more shape to things, like making the traps more round and blocky. And here you'll see me change the proportions, like I'm making the butt and the deltoids a little bit bigger to show more muscle. For this next figure, I'm going to have the arms raised, like someone's doing a front double bicep pose. Same concepts, we're starting with the traps, but this time we're having them point upward a little bit by making the collarbones make more of a V, and same thing with the rest of it. Now I'm adding on the deltoid shape. Now the biceps, and I'm drawing through to show it's cylindrical right there. And I'm cutting it off short because this is a torso tutorial, not a arm tutorial. I'm really showing how wide the lats are going to be because he's spreading his scapulas apart. For this next one, we're going to have a little bit of twisting, which is why I curved that center line. And we're having the the shoulder on our left raised. But it's still going to be the same concept where we have it big at the top, narrow in the middle, and we draw a bowl shape for the midsection, a bowl shape for the upper pelvis, and then a triangle at the bottom. And you see how I cut into the torso to add on the deltoids. They're not just on the edge, they cut in a little bit like that. Now we're doing the next one as a profile view, and it's still all the same, but it's not going to go inward on the front as much. It's going to be relatively flat on the front, but curvy on the back. Adding on the deltoids, the same as always, cutting into the torso some. Here I'm going to add a little bit of the upper arm. Now there you'll see I drew a center line, but for that point on the deltoid, I put it further forward than the center line. All right, let's do another. For this one shoulder will be raised, but the other one won't be. Often people like to draw one line for the angle of the shoulder, but I think two is more effective and easy to understand because they can move independently of one another. And I still counted 3 heads to find the bottom of the belly button. We're also going to have the hips tilted with the one on our right higher than the other. And all you have to do is draw one point higher than the other, but keep the rest of the things level with each other. Still doing that cylinder or bowl shape for the pelvis and the triangular trapezoid for the crotch. Adding on a little bit of quads just to see how it interacts. Now notice there how I cut into the pelvis, how I cut into the upper torso for the deltoids again. Many artists like to just draw them hanging off to the side, but they cut into it. Now to find the line for the chest, notice how there I went from the middle of the forehead down to the collarbone and copied that distance to find the bottom of the chest. Now I'm finding the edge of the abs, which will go all the way down to the crotch, and there's the edge of the obliques, which go right beside them, making some divisions for the abs. And now this one is going to be sitting down, hunched over. So this time the traps are going to be much higher on the head because he's bent over. And I'm also having the deltoids cut way more in because they're wrapped more forward. And other than that, it's really the same. It seems so daunting to add these different poses and change the figure, but it's really simple, just making certain things higher up and bringing things more inward. Now this one's going to be like a lat spread from the back view. Notice how wide I'm making it, because when you have lots of muscles and you spread your scapulas apart, it's get really wide. But I did not change the midsection or pelvis, and that's what makes this pose so interesting. It gets a very strong V. And in comparison, the deltoids look smaller, but they're not, just that the back is bigger. Now we're going to shred these guys up. We're going to add tons of muscles. So there I added the edge of the abs, and now that line there, that is where the serratus goes. Notice that line from the collarbone to the side. That's how I find the angle. Now we're adding the abs. Make sure to stay inside of those lines, and I usually like to have 6 abs above the belly button and then 2 long flat ones beneath the belly button. Now I'm adding on the obliques and serratus. The obliques are the ones more inward and the serratus is on the edge. Notice how they interlock like that. Now I'm adding striations to the pecs. Now this can make your figures look really shredded and really cool. What you do is you go from that point on the deltoid and you fan out towards the collarbone, sternum, and bottom of the chest. Make sure to make them round, otherwise the chest will look flat. They should really wrap around the chest. And also, if you can, try to add little bumps or like indentions where it connects each line. Now adding the sternocleidomastoid on the neck. And now I'm adding the sartorius, which is the longest muscle on the body. It connects way up there on the pelvis and goes all the way down the leg. Now adding some more definition to the neck, basically just the sternocleidomastoid. It looks complicated, but it's really simple. Look up an anatomy picture would be the best thing to do. Now I'm adding the striations on this figure, still following the same content, the same process where I add little indentions every time for each line, and it just wraps around the chest with a strong curve to show the size of it. Now we're adding the deltoid heads, which kind of follow the same concept or the same pattern as the striations of the chest. Just make sure to have that point very sharp and you keep it separate. Now I'm adding on the trap muscles, just 2 simple curves. Now I'm finding that line for the serratus again and the edge of the abs. Now notice this point here, that's where the legs start, way up there, not lower. Now I'm adding the abs.
6 above the belly button and 2 flat ones below. I usually don't even draw the center line for the 2 below. Now I'm adding the obliques and serratus, interlocking once again. Many people get confused by these because it looks so complicated on real figures, but when you just think of it as 2 sets of muscles interlocking, it makes it really, really simple to figure out. Now adding on the sartorius again, just a long cord coming through that pelvis. There's the rectus femoris of the quadriceps. Now the next figure, we're going to do the same thing again. The main thing in this video is showing you what it looks like and how I approach it. It's very repetitive, but this repetition will help you get in your mind. I'm adding a little bit more structure to the head, and this structure is going to make it look like he's not turning directly to the side, but more to 3/4 view. I'm adding on the sternocleidomastoid and the trap muscles. Now I'm adding on the striations of the pecs. It's going to be the same thing, but since we raised the deltoids, that means we raised the point it connects. So now it's going to be the same thing except where that point is higher up. Also, notice that little triangle inside of the biceps. There's another muscle there. I don't know what it's called, but it'll make that shape, and adding it can make the figure look so much more realistic. I'm adding the abs once again. Something I should mention is that wave I give to them. All abs are shaped differently. Some of them are really jagged and have a lot of wave, while other ones are more blocky and stuff. I like to have this blend where it's mostly blocky, but you can still see a hint of this wave in them, where it's more downward in the middle, and that goes up, and then outward, and then up again. Adding the sartorius up there again. Adding the triceps. Showing the 3D form of the arms. Adding the striations of the pecs again, following that same idea. You can honestly go crazy with these, just depending on how shredded you want to make them look and how much detail you want to go for. I'm adding the different heads of the deltoid. It's so awesome to divide them up into different shapes. It makes them look very shredded. Now I'm adding the obliques. Notice how I wasn't afraid to add a bump on that edge. Often I see people are very afraid to add a bump for the obliques there because they think it'll make the waist look thick. But if you add just a small bump there, it'll make them look way more muscular and more realistic. And this one, the striations on the chest, will feel more tricky, but it's still the same idea. Just striations from that point. I feel like the biggest mistake when it comes to drawing the chest from the profile is forgetting how long it is and maybe trying to show too much of it or too little of it. If they're holding their shoulders in a good posture, you should see about that much there, and you won't see that much back, surprisingly. That's why the deltoid is so far to the back.
Thank you for watching the video. I have a link in the description if you want to get coaching from me. Comment what video you want next, and like and subscribe.